Season 3 of The Walking Dead is often considered to be one of the better seasons of the series. It introduced us to the iconic villain and leader of Woodbury, the Governor, while also reintroducing the fan favorite of Merle Dixon. We even got to officially meet Michonne this season, albeit her introduction was actually at the very end of Season 2. With all that being said, I want to cover one specific scene from this season. The scene in question being the incident between Carl Grimes and a retreating member of the Governor's Woodbury strike force. But before we can cover this affair, I want to quickly recap the sequence of events that occurred prior to said incident. The Governor, after failed negotiations with the prison group, launched a haphazard attack on said prison group with his own small army of poorly trained and ill-experienced conscripts. Long story short, they got outplayed and bodied by the Grimes crew. But shortly after this scene, we see an armed kid or teen or whatever the hell he is running away from the action. This is until he runs into Carl and Herschel. Then this happens.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't shoot. Drop the weapon, son. Sure. Here, take it.
So the question remains, was Carl, the little serial killer, right in killing this retreating member of the Governor's Woodbury strike force? Or was he wrong? To be frank with all of you, I think the answer is fairly self-evident, but that certainly may not be true for many of the more trigger-happy folks online. Be that as it may, let's examine his situation carefully. Carl has a gun pointed right at the retreating foot soldier, and so does Herschel. They tell this kid to drop his weapon only once, and the scared and shocked kid opts to hand his weapon to Carl instead. Now, instead of repeating their command and instead of clarifying that a lack of compliance would lead to termination, Carl opts to dome this kid in the face. Truth be told, squeezing a trigger is faster than swinging an entire shotgun barrel over and firing. Shooting Carl would also lead to immediate termination by Herschel. Unless the retreating Woodbury conscript is crazy, with no concern for his own self-preservation, it would be more than safe or rational to assume that he probably doesn't want to fucking die. Hence, it would be safe to assume that he wasn't going to fire his weapon. We also know that he was retreating from the failed prison attack. This only adds to the body of evidence suggesting that this kid doesn't want to die and isn't stupid enough to die for a lost cause. Now sure, he didn't follow directions, and sure, his finger was a little close to the trigger, but he was clearly surprised, clearly scared, and clearly dealing with a rush of adrenaline. It was also clear, at least to me, based on basic human body language, that he was indeed surrendering. Carl and Herschel should have repeated their demands while also clarifying that a lack of compliance would mean termination. Opting to shoot the kid immediately is undeniably unethical. It also wasn't needed or necessary for survival or for tactical reasons. It must also go without saying that not following directions immediately is not grounds for termination. Swift movement that can be interpreted as aggression can certainly be grounds for termination in such a scenario, because there just isn't time to really interpret what that act really means. But what happened here? This is not grounds for termination. That said, I'd like to show you a clear example of how to handle a similar situation. Remember Dave and Tony? Remember how Rick bodied these two assholes in a random bar? He didn't have nearly the same advantages that Carl did, and he still managed to handle that altercation more ethically. He tried everything he could to de-escalate the tension in that room, and he only fired his Colt Python when it was clear that Dave and Tony were about to attack him. This is what real self-defense looks like, and this is how Carl should have handled the retreating Woodbury soldier. More communication was needed, and an effort to de-escalate should have been pursued. Regardless of this lapse in moral judgment, I don't fully blame Carl for what he did. He was just a kid, placed into a situation he was never really trained for. But he is still morally culpable for outright killing another person without a truly compelling reason for said homicide. This executed kid could have been a productive member of the prison community, just like so many members of Woodbury eventually became. Tactically speaking, he could have been a valuable POW as well. But instead, he ended up being a bullet sponge. Carl was, unquestionably, in the wrong here. And if you think otherwise, I seriously suggest you reconsider and reevaluate your ethical beliefs. Anyways, that concludes this gold standard Walking Dead video. If you enjoy this sort of content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification icon so that you may be notified whenever I publish a new video. Don't forget to leave me your thoughts in the comment section as well, and please consider becoming a channel member. It's pretty damn cheap, and it helps me to further entertain you. With that said, I'm Captain Gold, and I hope to see you in my next video.